Welcome to the Monaro Zone, Professor Rose.
It's great to be with you, Chris.
Now, you've put a lot of work into your recent Snowy River Hostel proposal, I've heard.
I have put a fair bit of work in, and I can tell you a little bit about it if you'd like me to.
I would. So, for those that aren't familiar with the situation, what's the current and previous history regarding the Snowy River Hostel?
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about it because my association with it goes back, I'd say probably 20 years, when a good friend of ours, a local woman called Rita Rowe, well known to many in this region, and an extraordinary person that worked really hard in the area. She ran a little farm with her husband. She was got to a stage where she couldn't look after herself, and the Snowy River Hostel had started up at that stage, and it was just a small hostel, 14 beds. So I went to visit her several times, and I was just very impressed at the care, the quality of the way that she was looked after. And I thought, you know what, this is a fantastic resource. And the local people around Berridale and Dalgety and elsewhere had raised funds to put into it as well.
Millions of dollars, right?
Yes, it was really an extraordinary amount of work that has been done. There had been a little local foundation that had been putting money into it. And so it was all going along very well, but something happened, and I still haven't worked out exactly what it was. The local people in Berridale tell me that it was a problem with the council, and that council did something to not be able to get the amount of money that they needed, but all of a sudden it was costing a lot of money per resident. And I've heard figures of around even up to $1 million per person, which seems hard to believe, but I think one of the things that happened, Chris, is that the aged care system changed a lot, and governments kept on putting more regulations and more regulations into the stage that eventually it became impossible for people to be able to run them profitably. And I think the latest data is that I think 62% of aged care facilities are running at a loss. So I can understand what's happened, but it was a terrible thing to happen for people in our region, because all of a sudden this wonderful facility that looked after with wonderful care for 14 people had to be shut down. And so that's when the saga begins, because all of a sudden this situation where people were very well looked after with a small facility in the town of Berridale, there was nothing available. Now, I looked into the whole situation, and it's terrible to think that we've got so little aged care. We've got an older community in our region. It's on the data. It tells us there's about 20% of people 60 or over in the area, compared to about 15% nationally. So we've got a real aged care issue for our local people, and it's going to keep on increasing. If you look at a town like Bombala, it's even higher. So in terms of the whole situation, what became evident after a period of time was that something had to be done. And we had this facility. It had been closed down for 2 years. It's in the hands of council, and council had put out an expression of interest for people to look at what they were going to do. And really what happened is a lot of time went by and nothing happened. In fact, Councillor Davis spoke quite passionately about this at the council meeting yesterday, because she said it's just been shocking the way that this has just been allowed to drift and nothing happened and no decisions were made. So that's at the stage where at the end of last year, council put a resolution in place to say, look, we need to engage the local community to do something to find out what would be the best way forward.
And it hasn't been because the community hasn't tried, correct? Like, I believe Cheryl Mould has been pushing for a long time to try and get something going.
Cheryl Mould has been a key person in the whole area, and she has pushed and tried her very hardest. But the problem with the council is it's very unresponsive. It takes a long time to make decisions. It's easy to make a non-decision. And that's what Narelle Davis was complaining about yesterday. She said, we just can't keep on making non-decisions and putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Now, what happened was that Cheryl got a group of people together. She then organised a meeting, which I think you were at in February.
I was.
In the Berridale pool hall associated with the pool, and it was a very hot afternoon. I think there was a couple of hundred people there, and it was quite extraordinary to me, because it showed this was a really significant issue. People to come out on a Saturday afternoon And Cheryl had worked out, tried to find out people who were interested, and she'd found two groups. One was Cooma Challenge, and the other group was Carowana, who run an aged care facility in Bombala. In fact, it's an assisted living facility. So I think that was a terrific initiative of Cheryl's, and it really gave us a very clear story. There was two paths. One was with the group called Cooma Challenge, who were experienced in a whole lot of areas, but it looked like it was going to be a very costly enterprise to have them be involved. On the other hand, there was Carowana, who'd taken over a facility that had become no longer used in Bombala. And amazingly enough, under the stewardship of these guys who'd raised significant funds, I think they'd raised about $300,000, they'd been able to get the facility opened up. And I was so amazed at what they'd been able to do, because Dr. Keith Campbell, who was the chairman of the board, came and he said a few key things, but a couple caught my attention. One was, we want to give people a dignified way of living in their latter years. We don't want to use up all their resources. And he said, look, what we can do, we've worked out a way where people with just a pension and a level 3 healthcare package from the aged care system, I won't even try and tell you about the aged care system because I've entered that with looking at various family members recently, but it's bureaucratic beyond belief. And it sometimes takes 12 or 18 months to even get an assessment in that system. And that system has become even more complex at the end of last year. But the important thing that Carowana does is that they don't require, it isn't an aged care facility. So you don't have to have nursing care and all the other things you need in an aged care facility. So the costs are reduced. People have to be mobile and able, but if they're unable to be looked after there, then they would have to go into hospital after that. But after that, I went down and had a look at Carowana, and I was just extraordinarily impressed. And I knew a few of the locals in this area, Chris, a family from near Dalgety, that the guy there, Bruce, is now living there, and he's reasonably disabled, but he's able to get around. He's got a wheelchair, but that morning I went, he'd even cooked a lot of cookies for the old people in the hospital. He'd cooked them in the kitchen of Carowana, and there was just a very good feel in it.
It's dignified.
It's dignified, and really the extraordinary thing that Keith has done on the team at Carowana, they've made something available for around $65,000 a year currently. It's probably, it's obviously going to keep on increasing a bit, but in comparison, it's sort of like $120,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year in other facilities. Keith put a proposal up to the group that day, and Cooma Challenge put up a proposal. And Keith's proposal was preferred by 82% of the people that voted. A lot of people, interesting enough, Cheryl done a great job because it was actually, there were a lot of people online, a lot of people voted, and there were more than 400 people voted. So I don't think we've ever had anything in this region, apart from, when we have to vote, that had gained so much interest. And I realised this is a crucial issue for our area. If you can get a couple of hundred people along on a hot afternoon in February, then this is something that people really care about. And of course they care about, because we've got a lot of aged people, even such as myself. So, and I'm not looking necessarily to go to one of those facilities anytime soon, I hope. But look, I was just so impressed. So what I did is started doing my own research, and basically the people have spoken. They said they wanted Carowana Assisted Living by a very large majority, and I thought, well, if people want that, we need to see that it happens. Now, there's been many barriers along the way,
and it's been many months, many moons since that vote was taken.
Since February. So I've kept on moving it along. I've organised meetings down at Carowana. I've organised meetings at the Snowy River Hostel facility. And there's been a bit of an issue that's developed, which I think is, put simply, is that the people associated with the Berridale facility, the Snowy Hostel facility, are worried that somehow this resource is going to be taken over, taken out of their hands and just sold up. And so people wanted to see this being leased in some way, but it doesn't make sense for most operators. In fact, that day, you'll remember at the meeting, both the Cooma Challenge and the Carowana people said they would need to actually have the facility gifted to them. Now, people are saying, well, why should we gift a facility to a people? Well, it's not worth anything to us. We've got something that's been 2.5 years sitting empty and deteriorating, and it'll continue to deteriorate. So it's not like we're just sort of gifting something that's worth something. It's actually, it might have a dollar value in it, and the land's valuable. But Keith Campbell and the Carowana board have said, no, we can make this work. They've now sort of done some preliminary work to see, and there's a lot of interest, I think, locally. There's been some indications that there might be some support from the local member. They might be able to find support for it as well. But I think people can see, because when people end up in hospital, it costs a lot of money per day to have them in hospital. But one of the things that's called bed blocking. But if people can actually be in a facility like the Snowy Hostel, they can be well looked after. And the model that they've had at Carowana, Keith is wanting to put in place in the facility here. So there's been some resistance to it. And I think people just feel as though, well, wait a minute, we'd be handing over a really, important facility. And that would then be a big problem, because, we're basically gifting someone to a group. But Carawana's constitution says it's only going to be used for the purposes of people in this region. So it's used for, it will only be used for to benefit people in our own region. So, it doesn't make any sense to be concerned that somehow we're going to have a problem, because this is a group that's got runs on the board. They're a local group. Now, there are other groups that have put up their hand and said they might be interested as well. There's a group called Life Without Barriers that has just said, well, we could be interested. But who knows if they really would be. They're a big national group. My story is quite simple. I thought, well, look, we've had a facility sit vacant for a couple of years. We've had the people of the local community speak overwhelmingly in favour. And so why don't we sort of see how we can go forward? So as you know, I did a paper which somehow didn't make it into the council papers, which is really a due diligence to sort of dealing with some of the potential problems that we could come across. But I discovered that in terms of tendering, there are ways around that. In situations where there's been no interest and it's benefited the local community, we can actually bypass the tender process in that way. There's a whole lot of issues around financial viability that obviously are an issue. But the motion we moved yesterday was to, in principle, ask that, say that Carowana was the preferred group to take this forward. But there's a big but. They have to raise $2 million, because Keith has basically estimated that to get this up and running, to get the facility, and it's got very badly run down. We were there just recently, and it's good structurally, but it needs a lot of work. To do that, and to actually have some funds to get it up and running, so that you're not going into losses straight away, he thinks that $2 million will be required. Now, that means that somehow we in the community are going to have to step up. Now, there's no reason why we can't, because, down in Bombala, the group down there, which is a much smaller community, they raised $300,000. They even did a nude calendar. But I think we're going to draw the line at that, Councillor Elliott and myself. So I think there's a lot of potential here. And look, it's a really important facility, because we're underrepresented with aged care facilities in our local region. There's not a hospital in Jindabyne. We need one. There's no aged care facility in Jindabyne. We need one. This is an intermediate. It's the first step in what needs to be a bigger resourcing down here.
Do you think the biggest hurdle at the moment would be raising the capital, the $2 million, or is still the biggest hurdle overcoming the bureaucracy surrounding this issue?
At the moment, we've still got a problem, because I couldn't believe it. There was a rescission motion put in immediately after this motion was was won yesterday.
Who would dare bring up a rescission motion?
It was hard to believe that that this situation was. I don't know how it was, because, for instance, I've got great regard for Councillor Higgins, who came down to the facility, saw what was doing at Carowana, was really supportive of it. I think the council staff themselves put a paper together that showed there's a range of different issues and problems, and I can understand that. But the big picture is simple. You know, people keep on saying, well, why should we hand over this facility? Well, it's not doing anyone any good.
And I believe there's a cost with it doing nothing right
Well,
now.
of course, there's thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars go out each year with that going downhill, you know, and the facility's going downhill. So we can't just. And the proposal from the council was to use $60,000 out of the roads budget to do another expression of interest and so on and so forth. So that would take at least another 12 months. And then what would happen then? So I feel as though, and Councillor Nick Elliott and I have been very strong on this, because we feel as though we've got very good, we're just following the wishes of the people. Nick himself, he calls himself a man of the people, and I'm wanting to learn to be a man of the people too. But he himself said, look, we've got 82% of people have voted for this. A lot of people don't like it because they're worried about this, and this, but we have to do what the majority of the people want, and a big majority. And the idea is just sitting it there and leaving it do nothing, or it can do some good for the people in our region. Keith has got, and his team have got the runs on the board. It's an extraordinarily impressive facility. I really urge people to go and have a look at Carowana and what they're doing down there. Now, it's going to be a lot of work required if this is going to get up, and we have to overcome the hurdle of the council itself, which is a bit resistant to giving this facility. But I think, you know, council is gradually getting out of aged care because we couldn't run it. So why not give it to a group that can do it well? And Carowana has shown a real ability to do it well. And you only have to go down there to see the way that people are living, how happy they are. Here we've got this little facility that we could use for our own people. Now it means that people in the region, in our region, around Jindabyne and Berridale, Dalgety, we have to step up and find out ways of being able to raise funds like the Bombala people have done.
And when you say the word give, you're not actually giving it to an individual. You're actually returning it to the community. You are.
So the Carowana program involves. If you look at the legalities, it means Carowana have actually said that it has to be used for the benefit of the community, and it's, you know, no one can see the future completely. So it could be in 10 or 20 years' time something happens, but the facility and the resources have to be used for community benefit, for the benefit of the community in the Snowy Monaro Regional Council area. So it's definitely designed to benefit the whole of the community. The issue is, without that facility, there's nothing that's going to happen. And I just think it's quite simple in a way. You have to stand back from all the problems and see the big picture. And the big picture is simple. Here's something that's been sitting there really for almost 3 years without any use, and it's deteriorating. It's costing us money. This is a way we can actually take a step into the future and trying to get it actually used properly and getting a very good outcome for locals in the community. So we really need to, I think, get behind this. I can see that there's some real issues for people in the area. I'm just really concerned about it, because there's a number of councillors that obviously feel concerned about it. I mean, Councillor Rooney spoke yesterday.
He used our lines.
Well, he not only used our lines, he used actually false information. Councillor Rooney was just doing fake news. He said, this is going to cost $6 million. He kept on mentioning the $6 million. It's not going to cost anything. We hand over a facility. The Board of Carowana have to actually raise $2 million to be able to even get to square one. So there's a big job ahead for them. And, you know, we've definitely had, I've spoken to Steve Wan about it, and he's very supportive of this idea. And so there may be some money that could be available to help in this whole situation. But, you know, it is a big ask, but it's not impossible. And really, I think the people in our community deserve no less. You know, we can't just let this go on and go on and go on. And, you know, it's worthwhile viewing Councillor Davis's impassioned speech yesterday, because she really spoke so well about the fact of we just can't let this drag on. It's been 2 years, nothing has happened. You know, we haven't done a good job. Now we've got the imprimatur of the local community. We've got a vote, 82%. We've got a local group that's got the runs on the board. People are worried about, well, what'll happen if this and what happens if that. But let's look at it positively. Let's look at it, you know, this is something that can be a benefit for the whole community, for a facility that's currently not being used at all. And yes, that facility would be transferred to a third party, but we're not doing it with anything with it at the moment anyway. So why not give them a go with it? And they've been able to demonstrate a really good outcome for us locally. And they're a local group. You know, it's not like some sort of group coming in from, you know, out of town that don't really care and are looking to make money out of it. They're trying to look at run a lean, mean operation and deliver an outcome. And Chris, look at the heart of it. I just think it's a simple story. We need people, the elderly people in our community, to have a choice to live in a place with dignity, and they can do that with a combination of their pension and the level 3 healthcare packages worth about $60,000. That money will then support people in that area, and they've done very well in Carowana, and really there's no reason why Keith can't make this work. I think it's up to us in the community now to help step up and support a process to raise the funds that we need to get this operational.
Now, if you were in a position that had, let's suppose that you were the mayor and you had the balance of power in the council chambers, what are some things that you could affect very quickly?
Well, it depends on what the situation is, but in terms of the story with the hostel, there's no doubt that it was quite impressive that we got a majority vote yesterday, 6-4. There's a rescission motion to come, and so we have to say, well, that's the way the process works. We have to respect that. But I don't think that's going to go anywhere because I think the weight of evidence is pretty clear. You know, we can't just keep on pushing this out and pushing us out and pushing us out further. So I think, you know, in terms of where we're going to go from here, there are lots of issues for us. And as you've seen yesterday, there's the councils in one way, it doesn't look good. Nick and I were talking about this today on our way into Cooma, and you know, it's embarrassing to see some of the interactions, but sometimes it looks worse than it is. I think we are getting stuff done. We're making decisions. There are some challenges, and you know, I think we're overcoming those challenges bit by bit. So
We've moved from the storming phase to the norming phase.
well, I think we are. The problem is there's still a big problem for us too. I would like to think so, and you know, I think there is, you know, some issues between a councillor and a number of other ones, which you've seen firsthand. I won't go into that because it's too complicated. But look, I think that all the people there have the welfare of the region at heart. It's just a matter of we have to get on and do the job rather than sort of fight among ourselves. But really, if you look at what's happening, we are getting the work done. It sometimes takes us a while to do those things. And I moved a motion yesterday to have only 3 minutes for the motion to be put per person. And I don't think we lost anything from that. But they're all important things. They're all important motions that are coming up. And, you know, I bring more motions than most. But I think they're all important, and they're things that we can discuss. And we eventually reach a vote. And Chris, you would have noted that there was a vote, I think you call it the gang, versus the independents in the early days. Well, people are not voting along sort of party lines, if you could put it, if there was a party, and who knows if there was or not. But yeah, there was a group of 6 people voting one way and
95% of the time.
What your data was unassailable, actually. But I think we've got to a stage where people are voting differently. I'm very disappointed in Councillor Rooney because
He should be on our side.
because I think that, I think he's worried about the council spending unnecessary money, and I can understand that. But, he definitely misrepresented the situation with this hostel, because it's not the council giving away $6 million. The council is giving away, if it does, and all the things that it stacks up, they're giving away a mothball facility that's run down, and as nothing has been done with it for 2.5 years.
As a mere local, I see it, the council just merely returning what belongs to the community.
It's exactly it. And, they're returning it to a group that's already got a track record in the local community of Bombala, and the Bombala community has stepped up to the mark. I think it's now our turn to step up to the mark here locally and see what we can do, because I think that's the next stage of this whole story.
I can tell that you've taken this burden quite heavily and for quite a prolonged period of time. What can the community do to support you in this?
I think the community really needs to say, this is what we want. 82% have voted for it. There's rumblings around in some regions that they don't want this anymore. We want to have another option. We want to see another player come in. But look, we can keep on, I think the term, paralysis by analysis. We have another group and another group and another tender and another process. The community, to me, have spoken. 82% is the most, it's not like it was 51%. 82% have spoken. And I don't think we've ever had a vote in this region, Chris, where there's been over 400 people have an input to something. So I think the local community just needs to say, look, we support this. We trust council to go forward now with Carowana and find a way through. Keith Campbell and his board down at Currawarna have got a big job to do. They've got to raise the money. But I think we have to step up here locally to help him. So that's what I think we need to do. We need to be positive about it. We need to see the opportunity for the future. And we need to step up to the mark and say, we can do this. We can actually raise the money to support the elderly people in our region, such as myself.
And you've got a great saying, which is always support the horse called self-interest, because it's trying.
Exactly.
And this is in our self-interest. This is community. This is the future of our region.
It is. It's totally, this is totally self-interest, I think, because, we do have an ageing group down here. I think Jindabyne community is different, but the Dalgety, Berridale area is a significant one. The Adambiddaby area is an older group. We have to be able to make provision for this. And just because the council have decided we can't manage aged care, we have to get out of it, doesn't mean to say we have to get out of it and not continue some sort of investment. I believe it's a reasonable investment to say, look, here's a facility. A lot of people put money into it, including the council in the past. Now we can pass it on to a new group who will take it on and take it into the future and give it a sustainable life. But I think we're going to have to do more, because we're going to need more aged care. The great thing about the Carowana model is that it isn't really an aged care facility. It's an assisted living facility. It doesn't have any of the constraints that you have when you've got an aged care facility, but people can live well with dignity and be well taken care of. And so I think it's a fantastic opportunity for us.
So I suppose in conclusion, what would be a 2-minute elevator pitch to somebody in the street on why going with Carowana would be the way to go?
Well, I think it's a simple story. Carowana is a group that's got runs on the board. They've taken a mothball facility in Bombala, been able to get it open, and they're delivering the goods. For a group like that, what else is there? It's the only group that's come up. The second thing is, 80-odd% of our community have said this is the group that we would like to see run this, because they've got the get up and go, the know-how, they've got the knack. They've been able to work a process through this very complicated aged care system. And, you've got to back a winner. Carowana made something out of nothing. It's a big job for us to actually get the 2 million raised, but I think it can be done. And there's a whole range of ways. We would hope that the state and federal government are going to step up, because one of the big problems locally is that you haven't got Aged care beds in hospitals are very, very expensive, and so they call bed blockage. You can't get people out because they've got nowhere to go. The Snowy River Hostel, when open, can provide that. So it makes common sense from an economic point of view. It makes common sense from a dignified process for people to have a place to live, and it makes sense that a group that actually has the knack, they're able to do it, would be put in charge of it. So I think it's a winner.
Thank you very much for your time, Professor Rose.
Thank you, Chris.
I love this rugged country, where winds and rivers roam, where mountains rise in splendor, and every face feels home. A land of dust and sunlight, of snow and driving rain, where hands and hearts work quietly, enduring joy and pain. To friends near Lake Jindabyne, who greet each dawn anew, with grit and hope they labor beneath the sky so blue. Our Leesville steadfast workers, who toil with every stride, they build this place together, our spirit and our pride. The Lord bless and keep you in this cold and windy land. The pioneers who played it first forever guide our hand. Long may the Monaro prosper, long may its people stand, bound by truth and honor in this bold and hardy land. The heart beats strong at Nuggets, where Woolworth's doors swing wide. Each face a friendly welcome, a neighbor by your side. In Berridale, a doctor's care, a humble healing hand. Their kindness in our trials, a balm upon this land. And down the Carowana Main Street, the budget store aglow, a place for all to gather through seasons ebb and flow. To families out in Bombala, who guided me one night, you showed this weary traveler a warmth that felt so right. The Lord bless and keep you in this cold and windy land. The pioneers who played it first forever guide our hand. Long may the Monaro prosper, long may its people stand, bound by truth and honor in this bold and hard land. Till peace of bold and fearless, who picks up what's left behind. With angel friends beside her, she keeps this place refined. Along the Snowy River way, through flood and fire's blaze, we stand together, shoulder close in all our trials and days. This land is more than country, it's family near and far. It's kindness in the quiet and under every star. For every hand that helps another, for every heart that beats, you are the strength that drives us on, the life in our streets. The Lord bless and keep you in this cold and windy land. The pioneers who played it first forever guide our hand. Long may the Monaro prosper, long may its people stand, bound by truth and honor in this bold and hard land. The Lord bless and keep you in this cold and windy land. The pioneers who played it first forever guide our hand. Long may the Monaro prosper, long may its people stand, bound by truth and honor in this bold and hardy land.